Now, first things first, while this creature does have similar structure and form to dragons, however loosely that may seem, this creature is actually a golem, and its story, like many of the creatures of this realm, is a sad one. There was a time in our history when circuses were very common and were enjoyed by the masses on a near daily basis. They were a form of entertainment where people would have the chance to see performers on the trapeze, throwing knives or acting ridiculously dressed as clowns. But one of the main drawing points was the inclusion of animals and beasts. As the number of circuses grew, there became more competition. Different troupes would resort to new shows, larger acts, and more dangerous feats. But the most well-known of these troupes were the ones that had the rarest and most exotic animals at their disposal. People loved this, seeing the likes of P.T. Barnum or the Ringling Sisters, knowing that they would put on some of the most amazing and spectacular shows, with chimera tamers and dragon riders, and strongmen who would lift mountain trolls, along with the plethora of non-magical animals that they had at their disposal, on display all across the sites. What nobody seemed to notice was how bad the animals were being treated, and what having them in captivity was doing to their numbers. Many animals became even rarer, and more guests would walk through the doors under the impression that this might be the last time they ever got to see the Tartugan mammoth or the Ranathoth hydra. But nobody seemed to be caring as much about the lesser animals, such as the elephants, giraffes, or bears the circuses had plucked from their homes. One individual who did understand the true nature of these circuses was a man by the name of Claude Barrack, who aimed to stop the pain of these animals by creating a cruelty-free version of the circus. Rather than having animals plucked from the natural habitats, he created numerous golems that had the tendencies of the animals they were modelled after, rather than hurting the real thing. These creatures would be able to perform the same tricks with no pain or risk. These creatures didn't need feeding in the same way the animals did. They didn't need to be caged, and if he could make these other circus owners see what they were doing was wrong, he could help the animals' populations flourish once more. For a while, he made exact copies of the animals he was trying to defend, but nobody believed him that he was doing anything different to the other troops. He tried to show them, but the customers would just move to another circus, one that they thought was more exciting or had a more unique range of animals, which is what gave him an idea. Following from this, he realised that he needed something that would draw customers away from the other shows, so that's what he did. For one night he held a promotion where any child that bought a drawing of a creature that they had designed could get free entry for them and their families. He began to sow the seeds for a plan that would change the world. Every week following from that promotion there would be a new golem based on the child's drawing. Not only were the children getting excited seeing their drawings on stage, but the parents would be drawn in after learning more about what Barrack was trying to do. Some of the wealthier visitors would even pay towards advertising the circus, claiming it was an honourable venture and they wanted to help in any way they could. Barrack's circus flourished, and some of the smaller companies even paid to replace their animals with creatures designed by their visitors. Animals were being taken back to their natural habitats, and any establishment that continued to perform with anything other than golems was shunned by everyone in the community. Barrack's message was being heard, but not everyone who heard was happy with the change. Word had found its way to the ears of the poachers and smugglers who had been supplying the exotic species, and for the last few years they had been living like royalty, with more staff, more clients, and more work. On hearing of the changing dynamics, they approached the likes of P.T. Barnum and the Ringling Sisters, who had also lost money as a result. On that night's show, Barrack decided to show off the golem he had created based on his daughter Lydia's drawing. It was a dragon loosely based on the Rothschild giraffe. Its neck and tail were designed to look like a series of interconnected spheres, with an almost spherical head placed at the neck's end. Its eyes were bright blue, and it had a bright white smile. Its legs were thicker, and each ended with large hooves similar to a horse. It had hearts on its shoulders and was dressed in a purple waistcoat, red tie, and spotted purple and red party hat. Anyone who saw this creature could have easily worked out it was based on a child's drawing. He let the creature run in a circle in the centre of the stage, and the crowd roared in excitement at the new creature. But Lydia jumped up out of her seat, ran to her father, and jumped into his arms, embracing him. A few moments later, however, the festivities and joy turned to horror. A single guest came running through the entrance of the large purple and red circus tent, screaming in agony as his clothes burned and his skin melted. He had accidentally ran into the curtain, setting the tent and its beams alight. Screams echoed as visitors rushed to the exits, some being crushed by wooden pillars and others being trampled in the commotion. A pillar fell and landed on Barak, daughter still in his arms, and lay toppled to the ground. His waist became trapped and the Giragon rushed to help its creator. Barak struggled for a moment, but looked down at his daughter, lying on the ground, unconscious, with a slight raising of her chest showing she was okay, but needed medical attention. He then looked back at the dragon, before pulling a piece of paper and a pen from his pocket on his chest. He wrote these instructions. Protect Lydia. If anyone tries to hurt her, make sure she is safe. Take her to the healer and then hunt down whoever burnt down our circus. He slotted the note into the creature's mouth, and the creature carried out the instructions, picking Lydia up by her shirt and placing her on its back. The creature took mental note of every person it saw with torches and weapons, as they slaughtered the golems and killed many of the guests as to not leave evidence. The Giragon raced past everything and took Lydia to the healer. Half an hour passed, and the healer patted the Giragon on the head and told it that she was okay. It rushed back to the site of the fire, hoping to complete its second task. Unfortunately, by the time the creature returned, it was already too late. All that was left was a few bodies and rags that had been the tent. However, this didn't mean that the creature's task was complete. It remembered the face of everyone that was there, whether they were guests or the arsonists, and started. The creature's eyes became red and its body warped with the years, making it appear more feral and monstrous. Bodies started appearing and nobody knew why, as they appeared almost random, but the reality was that the Giragon was continuing to hunt the people who had killed its creator, and as the years went by, it began hunting the ancestors and family of those people, one by one. A few other golems did make it out, hunted by the poachers but escaping into the forests and valleys. They too have begun the mission of hunting those who would burn down the circus, but only the Giragon truly understood what Barak wanted.